Hi, this is Pat Johnson, your sociology instructor. In this mini lecture, we're going to talk about personal space as it relates to social interactions. Sociologists and others in social science and communications have studied personal space. Think of yourself as having a bubble around you. And personal space is just the area between you and another person or people, and who you let in very close and who you keep far away from. There are 4 zones that we have found primarily when studying personal space. Let's take a look. The first zone of personal space is called intimate distance. This is up to 1.5 feet. And those we let into intimate distance, in other words, skin to skin interaction or real close, are those people we are closest to. For example, in this picture, you see a mother and her child. There is no space between the two, and they both look very comfortable touching each other. In this picture down here, I've included a picture of myself this past summer and my fiance. Again, we're very close. We touch each other. We have intimate distance here, 1.5 feet or less, and even to the point of touching each other. A good depiction of intimate distance when talking about spacing. Personal distance, on the other hand, is spacing for friends or close acquaintances. This is about 1.5 to 4 feet for Americans. The picture here shows 2 students talking in a classroom. And if you look closely, there's kind of a bubble around each student. The students are about 2.5 feet apart. If they got any closer together, it would be uncomfortable. If they got too far apart, that would also be uncomfortable. What's interesting is that these distances really depend on culture. I've been fortunate enough to travel to numerous countries around the world, and not just Western countries. I've been to the Middle East and I've been to Asia. There are differences in social distance. I've been in places where people were much closer for this type of conversation than what I was used to. And what we see here is often almost a leapfrogging where one person will try to get further away and the other person will get closer because one person's uncomfortable and their distance makes the other person uncomfortable, so they shorten it up. So distance is really culturally determined. What we're talking about here is the typical distances for Western culture. And primarily teenagers and adults. Kids often have very small bubbles. They'll get close to people, like sit next to somebody in a movie theater that they don't know, and their parents will tell them, come over here, because their social distance internal mechanism just hasn't been defined yet. Also, we tend to find that women have smaller bubbles than men, especially when we're talking about same-sex interactions. So 2 women talking to each other may get closer. They may be more on that 1.5 side, where when 2 guys are talking to each other, they'll be more at the limits of 3 to 4 feet. It's really interesting to watch. Social distance is about 4 to 12 feet. This is a distance for more formal settings with people we don't know. So when I teach a class, I always notice how students come into the classroom and seat themselves the first day of class. And they'll usually try to keep as much distance from themselves as they possibly can and not sit at the two-person desks until at least one person is at all the desks. And this goes for students who don't know each other. Also, as you can see on this subway or train platform, people are standing about 4 to 12 feet apart, except for these two people who seem to know each other and are having a conversation. Likewise, in an interview where this person doesn't know these three people, there's probably about 4 feet here, whereas these people who probably know each other are a little bit closer. These are all good examples of social distance. Finally, here is what is called public distance, and these are distances for performing to an audience, and this is about 12 or more feet. So if you've ever gone to a theater, you notice that there are people up on the stage and they are at public distance. So, well, as you go about your social interactions in your everyday life, I want you to pay attention to the social distances for the different types of interactions and what happens to you internally when somebody gets too close and breaks that usual social distance. If you're really brave, you can break a social norm and try to get closer to a person than is typical for that type of relationship. But I warn you, a lot of people don't like other people getting too close in their bubble unless they're in a real close relationship. And they may show their unhappiness towards your invading their bubble in a way that you might not like.